I/O.
Developers know that building even a simple mobile app can be a huge task. So when a friend comes to you and says, I have this cool idea for a new app, can you help me build it? Your heart just sinks, right? Because you absolutely know that their small idea is going to need all of this stuff. They're going to want it to work on iOS, on Android, on the web. They're going to want it to have all the latest features. Now, my friend Russ had this problem recently, because he was asked to build a simple photo sharing app for the use by guests at his sister's wedding. But he had heard of Trigger.io and our development framework called Forge, and he knew it could help him. Let me show you how. First thing he does is write the code. He writes it in JavaScript, a language that, as a web developer, he's already very familiar with. We can share it here on GitHub. I'll share the link with you later. But Russ gets really excited when it actually comes to building this code into native. All he has to do is go to the command line and type forge build, a dead simple command. And it takes just 2 seconds to complete, but it's actually really powerful. He's already created his native apps for iOS and Android, and he can test them right now by running forge run iOS. Another dead simple command, and 2 seconds later, he has a native iOS app being tested in the emulator. That's ready to deploy to the App Store. He can click on one of the tags with a photo stream, and here's some photos that he uploaded earlier. So this is the photo sharing app that the guests are going to use, already built as native. He's used the provided JavaScript API to access functionality like push notifications and the camera. And he's taken a process that could have taken him weeks of getting to grip with a language that he wasn't familiar with, and he's done it in seconds. And by the way, everything you just saw is live today. There's no private beta or waiting list. You can sign up for free on our website, Trigger.io, right after this presentation. OK, so Russ has taken that JavaScript and built his native apps for iOS and Android. But he's still going to need a website, right? Because otherwise, how are guests going to engage with the photo stream after the event? How are they actually going to find the app in the first place? Now, usually, to go and create a website, he might need to write some Ruby on Rails code, deploy a server, have a whole new code base, and spend a lot of time creating it. Let me show you how easy it is with Trigger.io. All Russ does is go back to the command line and type forge run web. Just like the other commands, this is really simple, takes just a couple of seconds to complete, and when it has completed, a tab opens up in his browser, and there's the same code base deployed as a web app right there with the same stream of photos that you saw earlier. That's how quick and easy it was to create the web app to go together with his native iOS and Android apps. That's cool, and that's why we're so excited today to launch here at this conference our Build to Web feature. When we first announced the company a couple of months ago, we launched as the simplest way for web developers to create native iOS and Android apps. But with Build to Web, we actually complete the picture and answer the web versus native question. You can do both, and you need to do both, and you can do it simply with Trigger.io. There's a kicker, though. With this technology, we can actually help you fix your viral loops for a mobile world. Let me show you how that works. So when guests upload photos with the native apps, they're prompted to tweet it out. Now imagine a new user seeing a tweet like this one that Russ did earlier, was to click through that link and be taken to some dry, static landing page, like maybe the Android Marketplace listing or the App Store listing. That wouldn't convert very well at all. But watch what happens instead. When someone clicks here, they're taken straight into the stream. This is the web app that we just deployed with the tool. They're able to engage with the app on the web on a topic that we know they're already interested in before then being prompted to download the native apps and contribute. This is going to convert a whole lot better than otherwise, and it's only possible if you do both mobile and web. So you can see from the photos, the wedding was a great success, and we've made the app available for this conference with a hash launch tag, and people have already started uploading photos there. In conclusion, you've seen a process that could have taken weeks of porting from one language to the next, and you saw it done in seconds. So if there's one thing you remember from this presentation, remember this. Trigger.io is the simplest way to build for mobile and web. Thank you.
Questions from our judges?
Is there an ability to customize a lot of things in terms of when you're creating these?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's possible to customize the app in the same way as you would a web app in terms of the appearance and all the logic that you would do in JavaScript. It's more powerful than just a web app, because of course on the native mobile platforms, we provide a JavaScript API to give you access to the camera, push notifications, geolocations, things that you would normally have to write native code for, but with us, you just write JavaScript.
And you've abstracted all of the unique APIs in a way that can...
Not all of them. We've done the major ones. We're adding new ones each week, so we'll eventually have full coverage. But we've been guided by customers of which ones we do first.
I'm not a big fan of cross-platform app development for mobile because I think it generates pretty shitty apps usually. Is this targeted at a specific type of developer?
So this is targeted at this is targeted at web developers, and there's a whole very large population of web developers who don't know Objective-C, say, and don't want to know Objective-C. Okay. And I think we'll look back at the apps that have been created in the past using various frameworks and look at them as kind of like the first websites that were created 10 years ago. They'll look a bit crap, but the point is the mobile browsers now, with our technology, have got to the point that we can make really powerful apps with it.
So just showing my age a little bit, I remember, and we've talked about this, the last war of software development was in the late 80s, early 90s around client server. There was lots of pinpoint tools, and each company kind of survived for a while, but then had margin pressure due to competition, and the ones that won basically went through M&A, right, and you ended up getting Rational Software, which was the M&A of many little software development companies that were platforms, each that had a dream to own software development. What's the strategy to own software development, including deploy?
Well, to answer that question, let me just kind of give you my view of the whole broad space, because I think the way client-side software is being developed is completely changing. And so, I wouldn't think about it as like a transition in a particular part of the market, like we saw with J2EE in the enterprise space and Rational. I would think of it more in terms of the frameworks, the platforms and the tools that people use to write websites that are going to change, and you can see that market is actually, there are people who specialize in generation through drag and dropping components. There are other people that provide more complex solutions, and actually, depending on what type of developer you're targeting and depending on what type of app you're targeting, there's a massive opportunity to take one part of that and own it, I think.
Thanks.
How's this different than Sencha Touch or any of the other platforms out there that are trying to do something similar?
Our customers tell us that our approach is the simplest in terms of the development cycle, in terms of the way to the platform. One of the reasons we founded this company was we saw that there was a big opportunity to do this right, because the frameworks that have existed in the past, in our opinion, have just been too hard to use for your average web developer. The level of documentation you need to read through, the commands you need to know are just too much. Whereas with us, we've really honed it down to being as simple as Forge create, Forge build, Forge run, and we didn't show you it here, but Forge package when you come to distribute it in the marketplace. And we think that's super, super important.
And do you end up sacrificing a great deal of customization, like switching between events, something like a native Twitter client on your phone, and you're doing a swipe to reveal a series of actions? That sort of thing is going to deploy awkwardly to the web.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's as flexible as web development, because fundamentally it's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that is running on your phone. So you can make that as beautiful and responsive as as you would a web app. There's a limit to just how much of the native features you can abstract in this way. So there are going to be applications where you would want to go native first, but I would say in the future those are going to be the 20% rather than the 80%, because most people are going to see massive benefits in terms of not having to maintain multiple code bases, and they'll get all the native access to the features that they need through our framework.
But you do get access to native APIs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
How far behind are you typically? I don't think Apple launched any new native features for the iPad launch today, but how long if they launched a new accelerometer feature, would you typically be behind?
That's a great question. Yeah. And it takes us about 4 hours to add a new native API and deploy it to this framework. And because it's a cloud build service, we can make it available hours later. Now, obviously, we're guided by our customers' priorities in terms of whether we actually do that, because not every feature is as important as every other, but we can do it very, very fast and have done for customers like AppNovation, which is a major dev shop working with us.
Great. Let's hear it for Trigger.io, part of the 2.0 competition. We're going to take